Yeah, that's right. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Brandon Bonanza show. I'm so excited. I think I got that intro right. I think I did it right. We'll know when we go back or if somebody comments. Anyway, I'm very excited today. I have a guest I haven't spoke to in a little bit of time. He was on the show twice before. Last two times were both amazing. So I'm really excited about that. I do have a quote though for today. And let's see. Today's quote is right here. Aha. I made this slide myself, everybody. Look at the skills that I have. I took that picture this week, actually, yesterday, the day before, and I just threw some words on it. So today's quote is: "The art of a warrior is to balance the terror of being a man with the wonder of being a man." That's by Carlos Castaneda. And today's guest, boom, there he is. What's up? Today's guest is none other than the Sarkastik Worlock, and I'm very excited to have him on my show. So, what's going up, dude? What's going
Not
up? What's going
much.
on?
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen.
What's
I'll
going
tip
up?
my
Not the space
ridiculously
shuttle.
large hat.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I said, "What's going up to you?" instead of "What's going on," and then I was like, "The space shuttle." No, I don't know.
So, how's things, man? We haven't talked in a while.
Yeah, pretty good. I wanted to give a little recap because I went on. So I was going to do this before I brought you on, but I might as well bring you in and then talk about this because then you can comment or whatever. You can talk amongst yourselves. But I was able to be on Compound Media last week, which is Anthony Cumia's network, who, if you guys aren't familiar, Opie and Anthony, you might have heard that. It used to be a radio show. Anthony Cumia was on that. They went to satellite, and then on satellite radio, something happened. I think he took a picture of a chick in Times Square or something, and something happened. Someone got smacked, but then he got kicked off of satellite radio. So I guess he started his own network. This is probably like 2016 or 15 or something. But my friend Pat Oates, who's been on the show, comedian Pat Oates, has actually been on the show with Anthony a few times. He sat in with him, and I guess Anthony is sick or something. I'm not quite sure, but he's been having people fill in. So he had my friend Pat fill in for last Thursday, and Pat brought me as a guest, and he wanted to talk about like conspiracy and weird things, is what he said. And we basically didn't talk about stuff like that till toward the end, but I'm still very excited. It's behind a paywall, everybody. So, if you want to join Compound Media, go ahead. I'm not going to tell you not to, but it's probably not worth it just to see a little bit of me. I'm going to actually try to get that clip. But if you are a subscriber, check it out. Let me know what you think. It was last Thursday, which was the 2nd of November, I believe, November 2nd. Yeah, because today's the 8th. Yes. So we got to fill in. It's really cool. And when we started talking about that stuff, like conspiracy stuff, I was like, all right, let's just start off by talking about the moon. And he has two producers on the show that also can chime in, and then they could like show their heads if they want to talk or whatever. So I was like, pull up a picture of the lunar lander. So I had him do that. And then I was just like, you guys think this was in a vacuum? I mean, come on, just look at it. So he did that. Talked about the little rover that they have. I asked a question like, who took the shot of the
So
space
panning up.
shuttle, the thing leaving, all these things. And I also talked about like Waynell Sexton. I brought that up, which is George Floyd's second grade teacher who kept his homework for all these years, allegedly. So after the show, though, because Pat, he wasn't really budging. And I get it. Most people are like, oh, but why do you think we didn't go to the moon? Like,
Little known fact, but that George Floyd homework was counterfeit.
yeah, I think the whole network, because it was on CNN, is probably counterfeit. But the cool thing is, well, one cool thing is, I guess you could text in or call in, but Pat had it so people couldn't call, but they could still text in. And somebody texted and said, Brandon is and then in all caps. So I thought that was great. I'm like, yes. But the one of the producers after the show was like, Brandon, he's like, you're really making me think about some things. I'm gonna have to start looking into stuff. And I'm like, Yeah, man, just be careful. That's why I said I was like, just be careful when you're looking into these things. But yeah, that's great that you want to get into truth. So I'm excited. At least somebody was reached. And I had a great time. I got to go to New York City for the day and hang out with two of my friends, one who's a comedian. So it was such a great time, and
That's
I
awesome.
don't really care what other I thought more people would probably hate on me, but anyway, yeah, so that's what I've been up to. I've been winding down with the weddings because I'm a wedding DJ. And I did stand-up comedy for the first time in at least 2 years. But even before that
Wow.
was I did it once in like 2021 just to do it, but I haven't really steadily been on a stage since like 2018. On and off in 2019, tried to start again in 2020, but we all know what happened. But yeah, I went 2 weeks ago, will be tomorrow, and I'm probably going to hit an open mic either tonight or tomorrow, or maybe both too. But I got to go on, got to perform. I was so excited about it.
Wow.
So that's
How do you
been going
feel?
on. The love life's going well. That's
Good.
going on.
How do you
And
feel to be on stage again?
oh man, it was really cool. So it was an open mic, and this is a pretty popular open mic, so there's a lot of people there, and you have to get there early to sign up, which I unfortunately didn't get there as early as I wanted. And then I ran into a bunch of people I knew before I knew where the list was. So I was chatting and I was like, wait, where's the list? So I was like
Oh,
24th or something on the list. So everyone gets 5 minutes. So you can imagine how long that is. So but I hung out. We had to run to the store so you could sign up and then it starts an hour later. So I had to run to the store and then I came back and it was already going. But a couple people had made references to me, like the comedians. They're like, one of the guys said something about Jesus, and this other guy's like, he looks like Jesus, but like mixed with a Hell's Angel. And I was like,
nice.
and so
What a compliment.
yeah, I
It's
was like,
it's that iconic scene with Jesus with a whip really mad.
yeah, when he drives away in his motorcycle and peels out.
I got in a discussion just yesterday with somebody about that whip scene in the Bible movie. And he's like, I don't think Jesus hit anybody. And I'm like, well, then he's just an angry dude just yelling. Do you often run away from angry dudes? If like an angry dude is in Walmart, is he going to clear out the entire store? Nah, nobody cares about that until he starts hitting people and they'll
You
run.
got to cross the line into physical assault to actually,
Mm-hmm.
scare most people. But no, it was really cool. I started off, I got on stage. So the guy before me wasn't there, so they called his name, and I had no idea because I hadn't even looked at the list after I signed up. So I was just kind of going to be surprised. And they called this guy, and they didn't come up, and they're like, "Fuck this guy! Like, what about this next guy? Is he here?" And then they said my name, and I got up, and the host was like, "Oh, it's him! It's Jesus or whatever." So I went up there and I went up to the mic and pretended like I was going to talk. And then I like fixed my hair and then I did like a hair flip. And then I kept pretending like I was going to talk. And then I was like, and then I had to fix it all. So it was pretty cool. And then I went into just some jokes that I'd worked on, kind of stories that happened in my life. I got some laughs. It's not like I destroyed it, but it's an open mic. So but the one cool thing though, after I got off the stage, because anyone that goes to an open mic will know a lot of times there's just a lot of terrible comedy.
Mm.
It's really just practice anyway, but a lot of times there's just people up there who are young. Like this one lady was up there talking about like BJ's and she's like, my brother's in the room, and I'm talking, and I'm like,
That's half the female comedians, right? Like,
yeah,
I
yeah,
did something so nasty, you guys will laugh.
yeah, yeah. Well, a lot of young people in general too. Like even some of the young men, like there was tons of Hitler jokes, and there was like tons of like Andrew Tate jokes and all these things. But it was cool though. I went up there, like I said, I got some laughs. People were kind of engaging. And when I got off the stage, the host was like, he's like, "Do I know you?" He's like, and he was like, "Wow." He was, like that. So I was really excited. And I don't think I know him, or unless he saw me like on a podcast or something. But I do know a bunch of people that are in before. But it was cool. I got to do a Hitler joke that I have. It's I won't give it away too much, but it's about Rudolph the Red-Nosed Hitler. Instead of Adolf Hitler, I'm saying just change his name to Rudolph Hitler. But it's surprising to me though, and we can even maybe talk about this too. This might go into something we talk about, but in 2016, so I was doing comedy from 2013 to 2016, 2017 pretty heavily. And in 2016, the end of 2016, we all know what happened. Donald Trump got elected as the president, and
Everything stopped being funny all of a sudden.
it, yeah, it got really weird, and I was up there, but I was also having this change within myself, and I wanted to talk about different things in my comedy. I was trying to talk about like anti-war stuff and all this stuff. And I was kind of trying to wake people up a little bit and inform them. And when I went to this open mic last 2 Thursdays ago, that's all it was. It was people basically doing what I was trying to do in 2016 from both sides. Like you get some left, but there was also some other people that were like, I don't know, was it 600,000, 6 million? Who really cares? I heard this guy say that. I was like, oh, whoa, talk to me after the show. But um, so I was like, wow, that's crazy how I was trying to get all that done. But then I realized at some point, and this is what's getting me back to go on stage, is that none of that stuff to me really matters. Like I just want to make people laugh, connect with them, be silly. And if I could figure out a couple different characters to do it, great. And if I get people to wake up to a little bit of stuff, that's fine too. But I don't have to go up there like I'm George Carlin or Lewis Black or,
Yeah, yeah,
name that comedian and like wake people up in all this stuff. It's like it doesn't need to be done. So I was really excited about that. But it's crazy how the climate changes.
yeah,
And I feel like I'm this early adopter where I was out there trying to do that. That's why I'm excited because I feel like my stuff will kind of hit better now. But yeah,
yeah.
anyway.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems the pushback is finally starting where it's not the pushback. We've had the pushback for a while, right? Where everyone going, "Oh, we can't do this. You guys, you're killing comedy. You're killing media. It's the whole thing's dying." Everyone's been complaining for a long time, but what have we learned, right? Like we're old dudes. What have we learned at this point? Complaining is not gonna help anything. It's when you actually just do that thing that you wanted to do rather than complaining about not being allowed to do it. You just do it. And it seems that we're finally getting to the point where people are breaking out of the confines of what they've been told that they're allowed and not allowed to do, which is great. We're getting back to people being more childlike, you know? Speaking of Hitler jokes, me and my brother used to one of our favorite things, and this started when we were like 12 years old. As we're little kids and we get all excited. Oh, when you say Hitler, people get really weird. And so we just started making up like fake Hitler quotes when we were quick kids. And my favorite was I did this one that, quote Adolf Hitler, trust is taking a shower when and where you're told. You could use that. I like that one. It's a good one.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. Well, most of the Hitler jokes I saw, and I had a few different things. You only get like 5 minutes, and I think this one you only get four because toward the end they shorten it because there's so many people. And I saw all these Hitler jokes, and most of them were, like the mainstream stuff. It's like just making him the butt of the joke, whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was talking because Elizabeth was there, my woman, she was there, and she's like, she like whispered to me, she's like, I don't know about this crowd with some of the gun jokes because it seemed like a pretty liberal crowd,
Yeah.
because I have some great gun jokes. And I've done it there before. Actually, last time I did the open mic, I did it there. And I was like, yeah, maybe I'll try some other stuff. And I was thinking to myself, I'm like, everyone's doing a Hitler joke. I'm not going to do my Hitler joke. But I got up there and I'm like, you know what? You guys are doing your Hitler jokes. Here's my Hitler joke. And I basically sang Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, but I was like, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Hitler. I'm just so I brought some class to the jokes,
Wonderful.
and some silliness because honestly, at the end of the day, I'm classy and I'm silly, and I silly over class. But
Hmm.
yeah, no, I think what you're saying is 100% right. What you're saying before, people are now kind of ready to be offended, if you will. And when I was talking to my friend Pat, the comedian Pat Oates, he was telling me how because he basically did comedy. He only stopped for a few months because then they started doing shows again in 2020 with whatever they can do. And he said that most crowds, most people that you would meet, nobody would really get offended in real life. He's like, it was all the people online.
Yep.
And since everybody was home, they thought online was real. And he goes, people were still doing their craziest shit, whatever they wanted to do. But then I was like, I don't know, man, because I'm going to be talking about covering my face and all this stuff. and I don't know if that's going to go over so well, but maybe now it will. But I don't
Maybe.
want to do comedy where I like divide people. I want to make them all laugh. So maybe I'll just tell them stories. But it's
I
funny how the perception is, though. This is going to finish, but the perception, everybody thought it was uh, super censored, or what's the word I'm looking for? You had to be politically correct and all this stuff. But from what he was telling me, he's like, people just didn't give a shit. It's just
yeah,
the
that's great.
yeah.
I think that corporations have kind of uh made a big mistake with thinking that the online, like what's represented in Twitter, is actually what real people are like.
Yeah.
And they keep looking at Twitter and basing all their decisions off of Twitter, and not realizing that like most people aren't even there, and half the people that are there aren't even real. So yeah, and
That's
they
a
keep
fucking another great point.
mhm,
Bots are everywhere. But anyway, go ahead.
everywhere. Yeah, it's a mess, man. You were talking about earlier about just being silly and having fun, just not having to change the world and be a George Carlin that has some impactful point that people are going to be quoting 20 years from now. Like, yeah, he's right. By the way, can't really stand people who will quote George Carlin. Have you come across that? It's like, if a person quotes George Carlin at me, I'm very likely to not enjoy being around them. Is what it would seem to be, because these are very pompous people, very pompous, very very righteous. They've got it all figured out, and at the same time, they're not going to do a damn thing. None of them do a damn thing. But I I've been going through something really similar, and I'm glad you brought that up, because I've talked to a few people now, and it's beginning to seem like this is like a trend that's almost happening with people similar to us. Is I myself have gotten to this point where I don't really my whole motivation for wanting to do anything in front of people has completely changed, to the point where it's like I've given up the idea that I'm going to change the world or correct things, or
Welcome to the club, my friend.
yeah,
I
man, it's
love you.
over. It's not that the world is over. It's that it's fine. It's been fine. It's on its course. And I've said this for years, but I've finally gotten to the point where I don't need to walk up. Well, most of the time, you know, I'm still me, but
Sometimes it's
I've finally
fun.
gotten to the point where I feel like I don't need to walk up and just start slapping people. You know, it's like, that was a good shtick for me was
It's a good thing too, because your parole officer's here in the chat, and he's like, "You better not be smacking people, Warlock." Just kidding, guys.
right.
I'm a
Yeah.
comedian. But go ahead. Yeah, yeah. No,
I
that's
didn't
that's
know you knew who my parole officer was. That's weird.
yeah. He's Sark's parole officer one in the chat. I guess Sark's parole officer was taken. So
Oh man. Yep. So it's been fun. It's been really fun just getting to a point where uh you get to really just focus on what is actually important. And one of the things I've been really enjoying is focusing on somebody else's work entirely that just makes people happy. I've been doing those AI voice model readings of Manly P. Hall's The Ways of the Lonely Ones. Absolutely love that book, because it's not out to change the world. It's not out to fix anything. It's just out to show you a story that maybe reflects a little bit of you, and in that reflection, you can just take a deep breath. You know, maybe realign a little bit of what you think is important or what actually matters. And I really like I mean, it's called The Ways of the Lonely Ones, but when you were I think I've gotten about 6 chapters in so far, which is 6 short stories, separate, but each one of these shorts is focusing on a different lonely one, and one who is on his course. And yeah, and it's really cool, because all these people on their course, none of them are about going on and fixing anything. And I really enjoyed. It reminds me a lot of Zarathustra, Nietzsche's Zarathustra, where There are these multiple times where he's going up and down the mountain. He comes down the mountain. I'm going to fix it all. I'm going to help these people. These people are lost. And then he realizes there's no way. I'm going back up the mountain. Bye. And then he ends up having to come back down again. And I think that things move in this sort of cycle. And each time you come back down off of the mountain, there's a little bit more of a. I'm not saying that Nietzsche represented through Zarathustra the love of Christ, but if I think that each time you come down, there's a little bit more honesty in the situation of these people, a little bit more compassion, a little bit more of an ability. And I do use this word as an ability, but an ability to dehumanize others to the point where you're able to see, like, when people bring up how evil dehumanization is and all that kind of stuff, and it's so mean, you're making somebody else into something lesser than you. Well, this is really only so bad depending on how you treat animals. If you're a real piece of crap to animals, then yeah, it's terrible. Don't dehumanize anybody. But I've noticed that the more I'm able to, like, horses have done things to me that no man would ever get away with, and they've been just fine. And it's the understanding of what they actually are that adds this layer of compassion to it all, where you're able to embrace them as they are. And you could still like go like, oh man, I hate the way you smell. That's awful. But it really is more of an ease in an ability to just accept things as they are, and not feel like you have to fix it, change it. So.
Yeah, 100%. And you know what? I was going to say totally those Puerto Rican horses because they use so much cologne. Just kidding, all my Puerto Rican friends. I love you guys. Please don't steal my car.
You're
Anyway,
gonna
no,
you're gonna
I think
wind up with the revenge of a long-legged, pissed off Puerto Rican
horse. No, I think what you said is 100%, 100% true because there is that demonization or there is that other is less, right? Like NPC comes to mind. People, we think of these non-player characters and then
they want
that
to believe that that guy is
a non-player
inconsequential.
yeah. And but then you, like you said, you get to this point where you realize, no, we are kind of in a sense all one. Like we're all part of at least the collective consciousness. And these people are people because of the decisions that they make, and you can have compassion for them. But
Yep.
then if you get too heavy on that, you might start to neglect yourself and let people like that walk all over you. But then if you can kind of look at them as like the other, I think that's where the idea of like the, you know, Nietzsche speaking to him, his Ubermensch or his super person or Superman,
Yeah.
you can kind of look at yourself that way, but not in like a egotistical way. You could just look at yourself as like, oh, I've done this work, I'm healed, I have a different perspective. And then these people, they're fucking terrible. I still got to live with them. I don't have to treat them like shit, but it doesn't mean that I have to let their opinions bother me or any of the stuff they do bother me. I could just go along doing my own life and I don't have to like point the finger at them in that way.
Exactly.
It's like there's like this nice happy medium, and I'm glad
Mm-hmm.
you got there. And I feel like
Well,
I've
you've
there
been
too.
you've known me since the beginning of my whole thing, and so you know I've been a very political dude back in the day,
Yeah.
and combining like esoterica and political leanings into this what I still think is a really cool as above so below amalgamation of way of living, but these days it's a lot less about preaching. At least it feels that way to me. And maybe it's just a season, and maybe I'll, you know, descend from my mountain again in holy fire and burn the countryside as I traverse. But
Flip
for
some
now,
tables.
flip some tables, braid a whip. You ever braided a whip? You
No, I
ever
have
done
not.
that? I braided a whip one time, and it takes a long time to braid a whip. And I like to imagine Jesus sitting there braiding that whip, looking at that temple courtyard, going, "I'm gonna hit him first. That guy. He's the first one."
Look at that nose. Just
Because it probably took him like 45 minutes at least. If he was quick, at braiding a whip. It's going to take a while, and he had time to think about it.
I like it. Time to actually take some action that's well thought out, even if it is through anger or aggression, if you will, right?
Yeah,
And I think that is part of the important part of the journey, though. I think that a lot of people who come to truth and then want to help others, try to wake people up and spread the good word, just like in a born again Christian thing, right? Oh, look,
yeah.
it's Thumper's tail. I got a little, it's a symbolistic black snake cat tail. Hey, I'll have Thumper say hi to everybody. Say hi, Thumper. He's got thumbs. All right. Um, yeah, but I think that is an important step. Some people might even get stuck there where they're trying to like wake everyone up in,
Mhm.
and make a difference and try to save the world. But what I realized is, you talk about all these people like Manly P. Hall and Nietzsche and all these people. A lot of these people in their time, they were probably demonized or they weren't really popular, right? A lot of people
Right.
didn't want to hear what they had to say, but they wrote these books that survived them. They had this knowledge and they were able to put it together now for people like us, for people just like you and me. So we can read now about would you say the lonely,
Ways the lonely ones.
yeah, the ways of the lonely ones. So it's kind of like we're passing this knowledge down. And I'm not saying, when you come, not to you, but to other people watching and listening, I'm not saying that you shouldn't try to make some mark or create some kind of art or have a message or write a book or whatever, but just know that maybe it's for future generations or for just a select few of people who can see it and
Exactly.
are gonna benefit from it. And then maybe in the future, your stuff will blow up or whatever it is. But I think right now, especially in this climate that we're in, and we talked about this on the Oversharing show. Check out the Oversharing show, everybody. It's my other podcast on the Brandon Bonanza channel here. But we were like, we were talking about our show and how we have a great group of people that watch it, and our chat is always awesome. Just like this chat. Shout out to our chat, everybody. It's like laughs and hearts in there and all that stuff. We were saying though is like we don't think, and we don't want to put stuff out there, and like limit ourselves. And it's not because we have like low self esteem, but it's like the stuff we talk about isn't the type of stuff that blows up and becomes like
Right.
super famous to the fact where you can like live off of your podcast
And
because
it shouldn't. It shouldn't
yeah,
either.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I think if you come to terms with that and you just do something because you love it, and we've been covering the Dow, and one of the main tenets of the Dow comes up a couple times, where it's kind of just like do your work and then let it go.
Yeah.
Basically do your best and then just move on and do the next thing. It's all you can
It's
do.
yeah, it's that Bhagavad Gita, not being attached to the fruits of your actions. Like that doesn't mean not bearing the consequences of your actions, but not being attached, like emotionally attached to the outcome of this thing. Um, it's funny, like we spend a lot of time in our lives trying to help people, right? We're going to help them by telling them how we see it so that they can see it like us, so that we can agree. Most of the help that we try to offer, even though it might come across as like, we might look at ourselves in the moment and go like, I'm doing what I need to do. This is important. We could look at ourselves like that. I have a responsibility to preach the good word and all of that. But really, it's entirely based on selfishness. It's based on a desire that you match me. And I'm not going to conform to you. You conform to me because I am the right one. And, to be honest, yeah, I am the right one. However, that doesn't mean I have to force the rest of the world to be right with me. Does that make sense? I,
Yeah.
I think that there's so much black magic wrapped up, and it is true black magic wrapped up in the idea of helping people. It's Manly P. Hall, since we're talking about him a lot lately. Manly P. Hall referred to black magic as being nothing more than any occult or magical working that's done through selfishness, which even could go as far as time spent with somebody, like a conversation with somebody. If you're going to be selfish and use this conversation to try to get what you want out of the thing, you're practicing black magic. If you're working in manipulation, black magic. And in fact, Hall goes as far as to say the only white magic that one can perform is praying the prayer, not my will, but thine be done. And everything short of that is simply selfishness. Because, it's assuming that you have this perfect plan and that everything would line up perfectly if they just went along with what you said. And that's never the case. Oftentimes I go along with exactly what I say and it still doesn't work out well. So,
Yeah, and then there's also that part where, you might be wrong, right? Like
yeah,
we're so used to having truth in our side and uncovering truth, but like if I go back in this journey that I've been on, this journey, I said this on the show, on Anthony Cumia's show. I'm like, guys, if you start waking up to some of this truth, it could get scary. You
yeah,
can get mad. And I said, I'm like, the journey to truth I found is truly one from A to Z. And
yes.
the problem is a lot of people get stuck on the J's. And Pat's like, what's the J? And I'm like, the
Oh,
juice. And they all started laughing. So, but no, anyway, I just wanted to throw that in there. But yeah, that's the thing. I look back on my path, how many times I was wrong about something, or I might have had it just right. And I was like trying to convince somebody else,
mhm.
that they were like totally wrong about something. And actually, I think I tried to turn this into a bit back in the day, but I was friends with this woman, and she was Catholic, right? She went to church every weekend. It was crazy. Not many young people in the Catholic in
Right.
part of the country anyway. But so I was like trying to tell her about astrotheology and how it's all just made up and it's all off the stars. And then, and then I was talking to her about what she did, and she worked with like children that had terminal illnesses. So I was like, I thought about it later, and I'm like, this poor lady has to deal with children who are gonna die, and I'm sitting here
God, yeah,
tell her that God's not real. You know what I mean? Like
no kidding.
it's like
No
settle
kidding.
down, Brandon. Let her one step at a time. She can figure it out. Like this gives her peace.
Yeah. That's, have you heard of there's a debater called Andrew Wilson? Have you heard of him?
Sounds familiar.
Cool dude, Orthodox Christian, bit on the rough, I'm gonna mess you up side of things in a debate. He likes blood sports.
Yeah,
Fun to
yeah.
watch though. It's definitely fun to watch. But he had a debate with an atheist just over the weekend, and he took a tactic I'd never seen taken before, and it was the most incredible thing I think I've ever seen on a debate stage. He did this bit where he conceded the atheist's point. He just said, "Okay, let's concede to your worldview. There is no God. Now, us believing in a God, is that better for society or worse for society?" And the atheist had like, "What are you going to do? Has that tactic ever been tried?" That was the most brilliant thing. Like, yeah, let's just say there Sky Daddy, we just completely made it up, and or let's go ahead and concede that he is a terrible thing. He's just like he obsesses over screwing with us all day long. And like let's go ahead and make that concession and go along with like how how is like secular humanism actually making society better place, whereas like say Orthodox Christianity, which is like his brand, how does that make the world a better place? And I thought that was the most brilliant tactic that somebody could take on that. Yeah, cool stuff.
I like it. So who won?
The guy he was debating, he walked off stage after the opening statements. So I think Andrew won.
Oh
Uh,
wow, really?
yeah, yeah, he
Hang
was
in there.
he just couldn't have a comeback.
Yikes. Well, I just saw this. It's funny you say that because I think it was Sharon, sent me a clip of Pete Holmes. He's a comedian. I don't know if
I
you
like that guy a lot. Yeah,
and he was talking about the difference between like atheists and people who believe in God. And he's like, atheists, you guys, you just think it's all nothing and this all came from nothing and it's all just magical thing. He's like, isn't that pretty fucking magical if it all
it
came from
is. Yeah,
nothing though? Like, isn't that like, because we believe God is basically nothing too. So he like paralleled it, and it's hilarious how it's basically the same thing.
that's awesome.
Yeah, but yeah, no, I really debates. That's another thing that I really don't even want to like argue about these things. Like I went on the show to talk about fun conspiracies, and I wasn't even trying to. I'm just like, hey, check this out. What do you think about this, Waynel Sexton or whatever? But I'm really not into arguing and debating anymore because I really feel like truth doesn't need any kind of defense. And that's what I'll say to people too that are trying to like argue with me. I'm like, if it's true though, like it doesn't need to be defended, right? Like if you believe your religion, Catholic Church or whatever is the way, then why would you have to defend it?
Yeah.
Sounds like you're a little insecure about your own beliefs.
Well, I can't tell you how many hours I've spent going to war for a specific idea. And like a really unpopular, very specific idea. I've spent hours and
I think I
hours
know the
and
one.
hours. Yeah. I have like, man, I spent about as long as they spent um, fighting, the intellectual side of this argument. And one of the things that I've realized is that I have never convinced anyone who already had a standpoint on the other side of this argument. I've never convinced a single one of them. The only people that I've been able to actually reach with these ideas are the ones that are watching who hadn't made up their mind to begin with. Um, and even then, it's like it's a slow road. And even then, you got to ask yourself why, or at least I asked myself, why am I doing this? Like I am right. I'm right. You know what I mean? Everybody knows they're right, but I know I'm right. But regardless of that, though, being right is only, I mean, it does it feed anybody? I mean, if you're right about like when to plant crops or something like that, then yeah, it can feed somebody. But generally, not a lot of this is stuff that's going to alter the way a person lives their life. Um, I think about the Havamal a lot with when Odin said that it's best to be middle wise, because never a heart is merry who knows too much of his future. And he's got like five different, be middle wise because, and then, it's just best not to look ahead, be middle wise because you don't want to know everything. And this is coming from the guy, the God who was obsessed with wisdom and would do anything for wisdom and knowledge. And then he's telling you like, hey, it's not all it's cracked up to be, It's
a, 1,000%, dude. I think that there's something that's missed when you think you know it all and you think everything that's going to happen, you already have it nailed down because this realm, whatever the hell it is, whether it be a spinning globe or flat realm or just a spiritual realm, or maybe we're in a computer or whatever the hell it is, right? I think that there is like some kind of mysticism. There's a mystery to it that you can actually enjoy. And I
yes,
really feel like,
yes,
my proof that there is a God, if I had to try to prove it, is that he's just really funny because look at the things that happen in the irony that happens. And if you are too wrapped up in your own side or your own opinion or wrapped up in what you think is going to happen, you can miss a lot of that stuff. And that's really where I think the true enjoyment of life is. That's really what like enlightenment is, right? It's like
yes,
they'll say that you get enlightened, then you do the laundry or whatever, right? You like it's
yeah,
just a mundane thing, and it exists everywhere. You could just sit outside and stare at the woods for like a couple hours and
yeah,
have perfect enjoyment. And I think that's really what it is, especially this day and age. A lot of people, probably myself included, we have like zero attention spans, because of the devices or all this stuff that we do. And it's not pointing the finger at anyone, right? I'm not saying we should get
yeah.
rid of
No,
it, but we
you're
have
not
to.
trying to fix everybody.
Yeah, I'm not trying to fix it. It's fucking great, actually. It's funny to step back and look at it. And that's why I love being a comedian, because it is my job to step back and make fun of it all, right? Make everybody
Yeah,
laugh and then go back to work or whatever the hell it is. And then maybe I'll plant seeds and they'll watch my show and donate or whatever. No, but really, it's really just about making people laugh, honestly. I would probably
yeah,
be homeless. I'd be like, yeah, I'll do it. I'll be homeless and go make people laugh. But I with the attention spans, that's what I was talking about. Like all this stuff, people are just like go go go, and they're on to the next thing. And I especially in this truth, whatever the hell it is, community or whatever, people go down rabbit holes and I found myself doing all this stuff, right? Like whatever it is, you find like the shape of the earth or the government or whatever the hell it is. I think it could be fun and you can learn a lot of stuff, but you have to remember to also be here now, right? It's such a simple message. Just be here and enjoy it, because I think if you're gonna miss it, it's just gonna like kind of pass you by. And
That's
then you're
just
gonna
it,
be this
man.
old man who figures it out and you're gonna be like, damn it, I'm old
Damn
now.
it.
And then you're gonna get a YouTube channel and try to tell everybody else how to do it. And they're gonna be like, shut up, boomer.
Man,
Anyway, I think I
it's
lost
such a
it.
funny thing, right? Because there's that Arjuna aspect, rise and fight, do that thing that is your dharma, that thing that is part of your nature, and the important state of your being is wrapped up in committing this behavior, right? Or this action. Um, and then there's the other side that's inaction. It's sort of more like the Tao. But yeah, I've been having a blast. I've been having a blast with all of this because it really does seem that it's just a metaphor. The whole thing is just a flowing from one thing to another. And we've talked about, I know I've talked about this before, or at least I think I did, but the idea of grasping at power is it's a pretty wild thing because we stand there with our hand open, right? And then eventually power falls into it, and then we close our hand, and then nothing more falls into that hand. It's just you got what you got, and that's it. But the more you're able just to leave that hand open, the more you're going to find within your hand. And sort of like standing underneath a waterfall at some point
Yeah,
where
no,
you're
I think that's so true. It's like, and you could see it in media,
Mhm.
like even take the show The Wire. I don't know if you ever seen the show The
Oh
Wire
yeah.
about
Oh yeah.
Baltimore. And the guy who plays Littlefinger in Game of Thrones, I forget his
Yeah.
name.
I like
He's
that
running
character.
for mayor. I think it's season one or whatever. And spoiler alert, everyone. But anyway, he's running for mayor and he's like going around and he's telling everyone he's going to help them. And he's like, I see all this corruption and all this bullshit. And he seems like he's a really good dude and he's really going to make a difference. And the second he gets elected to mayor, like 2 seconds later, he's trying to run for governor.
Yeah.
He's like forgetting everybody that he, and
It
that's the
was
thing, right? He's like,
yeah.
wow, I could do this. Oh, I could be governor. And he's letting the people around him kind of talk him into this. And that's a great metaphor for anything. Like you said, the power, you have your hand open, it falls in, let it splash, let it go all over, just be
Mhm.
part of it. But as soon as you try to grab it, then you're cut off from it. And then you have
Yeah.
to make something out of what you have. You have to be like, you got to make a religion, the sarcastic
Yeah.
warlockism, and then you got to follow
I'll have
me.
my own cult one day.
Oh, we all
Just
will.
playing.
Probably after we're dead, but
Yeah.
hopefully while we're still going.
I realized a while back, because you start out, right? When you're waking up, right? Then the wake up process, we're ascending, right? We get to the point where you really do start to see the false dichotomies, and the false dichotomy in the binary between, say, the left and the right? The Republican and Democrat, right? And everybody knows about that one, and we all argue over that one. But then there's some of us who don't argue over that one and see through it and see that there's stuff beyond that and deeper than that. There's like real, actual issues, and this whole Republican Democrat thing is just surface water. And then you get beneath that, and guess what? You're going to find another binary. Which one do you want to choose now? Because now you get to go into, well, I'm not even gonna start listing them, but the deeper that you go, one after another, into, so you pass through this Republican Democrat, and from one binary, and you think you broke free, and then you discover that there is another binary lying underneath, and then you finally press through that because you're like, I don't want to just sit around and be angry at the other side all the time, so I'm going to press through that, and you press through that, and what do you find? Another binary underneath that, because Satan is in the system. Satan is the system. And I don't mean that as in like the system is evil. I mean that there's always a divide. When things come together and start to look as one, Satan shows up and creates another divide. And it's an important aspect of creation itself. It's the beautiful aspect of creation through this division. And I mean, it's not my favorite form of creation, but
It is a form of creation. No, I
It
think you're
definitely
exactly
is.
right. Because a lot of people talk about electric universe and or even a physicist will tell you, like a quantum physicist will say, if you zoom in all the way, we're just energy, man. We're just, it's all just particles moving around. So if we are just energy or electricity or however you want to look at it, then how does that work? There's positive and negative, right? There's
Yeah.
always two sides. It's always going to act like that. So as above, so below. Funny that we find ourselves in a realm that works exactly that way. There's night and day. Every day it shows us, hey guys, look, it's going to be black for a while. Lock your car. And then it's going to be white for a while. Lock up your I don't know, bottled water, whatever white people steal. But so I think
CDs, CD case, right? Those are still a thing, right?
fuck yeah, dude. I'm telling you, you got to watch your CDs. But yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that, but I think if you can realize that's what it is, then you don't have to get so caught up in it and you don't have to make it your whole life. And it's funny
Yeah.
because when I started to get to this point where even in like real life or online or whatever it is, I would talk to people, even say if it was about the nonsense that happened in 2020, right? I would find myself getting like excited, like a little bit of adrenaline, even sweating a little bit when I'm talking to them. And then I would kind of like lose what I wanted to say or lose my
Hmm.
point or whatever. And then I got to this point where like, I don't want to be that guy that's like, yeah, but don't you know this? And you got
Right.
to know that. And, it's like, yeah, but that guy's not fun anymore. Where I know now I could just walk into a room because I'm like 6'5" and I could just smile at everybody. And that has way more of an effect. I could change the energy in an entire room. I do it all the time at like weddings and stuff by just smiling at everybody and just laughing and having a good time. And that makes me feel good too. And you know what? Everybody in there is actually going away with something because then they're just elevated a little bit. And I'm not
Yeah.
like trying to say I'm great or whatever, but as opposed to before, I was trying to change their mind with my words
Yes.
wasn't working as well, right? Like sometimes the air, you have to cool out on the air and just uh let another element be your medium to exchange this positive energy that you want to share with people, or whatever your feel your dharma is. Yeah, like Speedily says, party on. Exactly in the chat. Shout out to the chat, by the way. We got Joe from Joker's Redemption in there. He was just on the Oversharing show. Go check that out. That was our episode last week. What's up, Val? What's going on, Angela, baby, Carson? Who else is in there? I saw earlier Zaralath. Shout out to him. He said he's listening. Listening. Yeah. Bullseye Dragon. I pinned a comment from him. He said people need to laugh and stop worrying about if it offends. Yes, people just need to
Exactly.
laugh. Uh, but yeah, man. So that was my path. One of my things that I started to notice, and I'm like, I just don't want to be like this anymore. So I try to, aim for the middle of the room. That's something they say in comedy. They're
There you go. Yeah.
like you said, middle wise, right? You don't want to be the guy who knows it all because one day you're going to figure out that you don't know shit and that's going to really suck. And if you have a book out there, you're going to be like, fuck, I got to
Oh
now
no. Yeah.
take this book back that I wrote or whatever it was,
My legacy is garbage. Yeah. Imagine that. Oh man. Anton LaVey, you think he like is in his grave going, no, I'm the lamest Satanist that there's ever been. Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Back when I was a Protestant, I had all these kinds of really adorable views on things. And this whole drive to it's very J-ish, right? With Tikkun Olam. It's that same type of thing of like this need to bring in the light, to bring the light and to be the bearer of the light and all this kind of stuff. And you are the light of the world and all that. And without you, there'd be no light at all. And then one day I used to get off on this idea that one day there would be no more darkness. That one day God would cast off all darkness and there would be no more darkness, no more tears, no more nothing. But then think about that as a magnet or a battery or I mean if we're going to talk about electric universe, then like do you really want that? Have people ever considered what it would be like to live in a reality with no darkness at all? That means no contrast at all. Everything is just that. And so I'm not a Satanist by any stretch, just to make that clear.
Oh, you're not?
But
Oh, we gotta go. I'm sorry.
shoot. But I do think that there's a that this world functions with a requirement of separation, of division, and it has to have these binaries. And what a lot of the times we do is we pick our favorites. I like daytime better than nighttime. I generally rather be in the sun than in the moon. That's just me. But I it would be a big mistake to begin to view the moon, which is not my favorite, get to the point where I start viewing everything that's not my favorite or that I don't necessarily like as the greatest evil, and kind of project everything I don't like about this onto that. Well, nighttime's evil because that's when all the nocturnal hunter animals come out, creatures of the night. And that's a level of it's a level of lame thinking. And I don't mean lame as in the 90s sense, but like horse lame thinking, just limping along. It's a level of lame thinking that is incredibly juvenile and incredibly destructive. There's no ability to have a path of acceptance within that, because everything that comes against you is now the greatest mortal enemy you've ever faced. And there's always some sort of like giant stress point and reason to freak out at everything that happens. And that's one of the things I see truthers getting stuck in all the time is you know, I think this is my big conspiracy theory. I think the truther was created by the people that the truther hates. I think that the say Bidens and Fauci's and Trump's, all these people that go off on that the truther goes off on. All of those people, I believe, fabricated their own stories to keep these people, and they continually fabricate more on top of it to keep these people in a constant state of anger and obsession, because it's not. I used to think, oh, they're trying to distract us from how powerful we are, and they don't want us to know that we could change the world. But bullshit. No, they just like you being preoccupied. You just got to be busy, and everyone loves attention. And in stand-up comedy, sometimes it's even a bad joke can catch a real good laugh. It's all about the timing of the thing, and these guys are masters of timing. And I think that they've created the truther movement themselves and forcibly propagated it. Keep that whole thing going. Like, you watch people on stage have these, like, what the truther would call a Freudian slip and what we would call, like, baiting. And the truthers
Yeah.
are like, oh my God, you see it? They just flat out said it. And we're like, yeah, they tricked you again. They got you again to freak out. And yeah,
They probably have software that makes them look like a lizard for a second. So people are
yeah,
like,
why
look, he's
not?
a lizard. Yeah,
You
they're
know,
like conduit for all this energy. Technically, on one level, they're just like energy vampires, which is something
yeah,
we talked about on the Oversharing show with Joe. So go check that out, last week's episode. But yeah, and I've always said this for a few years now. I've been saying that how they're, like Bill Gates or whatever. He's like a conduit, right? Or he's like
mhm,
a talisman for people's negative energy or whatever it is, and they get so worked up over it.
yes.
Yeah, it really is amazing. But I say God bless those people because they went out and did it, right? What are you doing, person who's watching the show that is hates Bill Gates or whatever? They built something, and he built this huge empire of, even if it's hate, but then again, on the other side, people love him as well, right? There's a lot of people
Oh
who love
yeah.
Gates, which is funny. But he went out and he did this thing, and he's going to have this legacy. Say what you will about him, but he might have got you to wake up. He might have got you to see some truth. So,
His legacy is going to be
okay.
written by people he's paid, which
Oh
is
yeah.
like, I'm not saying that that's necessarily bad. I'm just saying that no amount of screaming and crying and accusing and I have seen over the last like 3 months, I think the truthers have gotten really bored because I keep finding fake stuff, like completely fabricated AI nonsense stuff. Like I'm beginning to find new uncovered pictures of Tartaria being dug up from the mud flood, and I'm like, everybody's like believing this stuff, and I'm like, this is literally an AI picture, and I could prove it. And you guys are you're just jerking it. You're just jerking it, all excited. And it's a really interesting thing because it just cycles more and more and more, and nothing, eventually it's going to get to the point where those guys, those truthers, not only do they have no legacy, they're not going to be able to be in control of their legacy, and they're not going to have one, and they'll be forgotten very, very quickly. And the thing is that they waste all of their lives on just being pissed, and they're just gonna just be angry for a while. And I coined the phrase for this is impotent rage. Sorry, impotent rage. It's a
Nice.
very angry boner that just can't get up. It can't function, but man, does it want to.
It's like a semi. It's like, come
Yeah.
on, get there.
Yep. Yeah, if I had a nickel for every time a truther told me that they can't do a thing because because the elites don't let us, it's like, what do you mean? You could do anything you want. Like I don't have elites around me, like there's no elites here stopping me from doing anything. And they're like, well, they're in control of the system, and they're in control of the healthcare, and how long do you have to live, and all this. They're like, dude, just, well, for one, you're fat, so stop doing that. Whatever it is that you're doing there. Obviously, you're not that concerned, but it's just this constant stream of impotent rage. Can't fix anything, not even themselves. And what a terrible, terrible cycle for any one of us to be in. And it's so easy on any level. Like, we look at the truthers and we go like, you're doing it. And it's easy to see that they are the ones that are doing exactly this example. But it's on every single level that you take it to. And you could take it, walk your spiritual path all the way out to the end. And even at the very end, where you're the most mature, you still have the ability to do this, to obsess over the new dichotomy, or the new binary that was presented to you. Um, the one that's deeper than ever before, you know, new reason to be pissed off and go to war for nothing.
That's why I think everything's like some kind of cosmic joke,
Yes.
because you come into this truth, whatever it is, like the Satanist elites are running everything, and there's symbolism everywhere, and that's kind of something I went down. I went down this
Yeah.
rabbit hole studying symbolism and the they and the them, and they created schools, and they're brainwashing everybody and all this stuff. But you know what I was doing when I was doing all that stuff? I wasn't making videos. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
No, no.
I was looking into all this stuff, and it's so true, because at the end of the day, you're just being a victim. You're
Yep.
just acting like a victim to whatever, and you're also in like some kind of paralysis, right? Because of your fear or your anger or whatever it is. And like you said, everyone's going to be in it to some degree, because no matter what level you get to, that's why I love when I see it in the spiritual community too, the people who are supposed to be super spiritual, and then they're the ones that are like telling everybody what to do and that they're right and no one else is wrong. It's like, oh, you just got to that. You were so close, right? Yeah, so close. But I feel like no matter what level that we're at, it's in there. Like, it's baked into this whole thing. So you're gonna want to point fingers or look at the other
Yeah.
people and feel
Yeah.
bad for them, right?
Yep.
And at the end of the day, I think it all, a lot of it comes from like a low self-esteem. This is something I've battled with. And I think I've done a lot of work in that area, but still it always comes up where you feel like there's something missing in you, right? Or you're not good enough for whatever reason it is. So it's easier to kind of pick on someone else or make a whole career and a
Hmm.
living out of picking on whoever.
And
building.
people will come up and just start throwing money at you to do it, to tell you what's wrong with the world. You know?
Exactly. And
Like,
what you're not doing there is you're not creating your art, right? You're not doing your dharma the way that it could be done. And, yeah, maybe you could argue that maybe it is their purpose to be here and be Alex Jones and talk about gay frogs and all this stuff. And I'm not hating on anyone that does it, but I think that's really where they go wrong. They're just pointing the fingers,
yeah.
when there's always four pointing back on at you when you're pointing.
That's man, there's always somebody to point a finger at though. And no matter what happens, there's always somebody to blame. There's always the option of moving into blame. Um, I don't even see, part of me thinks it's a whole victimhood thing, but then another part of me thinks that it's a power thing.
How dare
That
you?
if I'm capable of pointing at somebody else and saying it was you're the one that did that. You caused this wrong thing. Now I'm siding with truth. I'm not only siding with truth, I'm siding with truth in power, where I'm able to actually address things and push for change in this thing. But so often that winds up just leading to impotent rage, you know, where there's no real point to having done that, like your friend, your comedian friend, what's it?
Pat,
Rodney Norman.
oh, Rodney Norman, yeah.
Yeah, he left an incredible quote of his own quote. He left this on YouTube and said that it's not in not giving something attention, it's in giving everything the right amount of attention. And I found that to be the most brilliant. I mean, it's so simple, but simple
Yeah.
things are nice.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? To take these complex ideas and make them simple.
Yeah,
And that is really mind-blowing, right? Because sometimes when you ignore something on purpose and you make sure you let everyone know you're ignoring it or whatever, you're still giving it your attention just in
mm-hmm.
a negative way, I guess you could say. Whereas if there's something out there that you don't like, say, it's a great example of me. I don't pay attention now to anything. I used to be like a foreign policy expert, right?
Right. Yeah,
I
me
wrote
too.
articles for the Libertarian Institute. Like I knew what was
Wow.
going on in every part of the world. Now I get my news through memes on Instagram, through people who I still follow just to kind of see what's going on in the world. And I have a stream plan for some time where I want to talk about war just because I'm a veteran and all this stuff and I want to just go out there and do it. But
Yeah.
um as far as like what's going on out there, right? I could get out there and talk about it and try to like wake everybody up to all this stuff,
To what end?
or I could pay that so much attention, or I could just totally ignore it, right? And be like, oh, I don't care what happens. But I think there's like a third way,
Yes.
middle way, where you're just like, all right, I'm aware of what's going on over there. I feel terrible for everybody that's involved in it. There's people that just for whatever reason, because of like the things we talked about with power, they want power,
Right.
on both sides, and you're gonna see, that's all you're gonna see on the television or whatever. But I just accept it and I kind of go, you know what, that needs to happen so other things can happen, and it's just a beautiful dance of what all this is. And
And even sometimes having the right opinion about a foreign policy thing is, I mean, it is in itself a sense of power. You
yeah,
know.
well, 100%, because you're the one who's got to be right, and
Mhm.
but what we don't realize, and this is something I found out, that a lot of people's opinions are based on everything that they've went through in their entire life. Like it could
Yeah.
be a connection that they have with their dad, like football, right? Like I might talk shit about football, like, oh, I fucking can't stand it. I used to watch it or whatever, but now I'm like, oh,
Mhm.
it's just escapism and it's like the bread and circuses and people are wasting their time. Well, what if somebody I want to talk to and I want to tell them how shitty football is? What if that's the link they had with their dad? They used to play
Right.
football, they'd watch football. That's how they connect. And their dad died or whatever, and they didn't have a great relationship with him. So they just watch football and think of their dad. And who am I over here to tell them to fucking not watch football, right?
Yeah. It's a wild thing, man. There's so much that seems like it needs to be fixed, but it doesn't need to be fixed. There's no need.
Oh, that reminds me, unless I don't want to cut you off, you're going to say something.
No, no, go on.
Before when you said something about the golden age, right? Because a lot of people will talk about the golden age of civilization, and
Yeah.
right now we're in the Kali Yuga, where everything's bad and it's all terrible and this sucks, and I wish it was the golden age. Well, I think it's possible that the golden age or whatever this is, because I feel like we're in a spiritual realm, and our main job here is to just kind of ascend, right? We're just here to expand our consciousness. And if you look at things like the law of one, you can even do it in a negative way. There's people that get up because they get so negative in the way that they see the world or whatever in their consciousness that they can ascend. But I feel like if human, let's see, the collective consciousness, right? We'll put it that way. Most people alive at this time, we're in this challenge, we'll call it, right? Where we have to raise our consciousness. And right now, it's one of the hardest things to do because of all the craziness that's happening in the world. And it gets put right to your screen that's in your hand. You could look at it all day if you wanted to, right? So it is, we can agree that, yeah, maybe it's the Kali Yuga. But I think the golden age could have been possible where human consciousness was at a lower level to where we were maybe more equal to animals or whatever, where we had like a collective consciousness that we didn't even have to talk to each other. Maybe we communicated through more of what you call like telepathy, or the way intuition works or whatever. And so
Yeah.
everybody was kind of on the same page, right? And everything was great and everyone was having a great time. But you know what we weren't doing? We weren't learning any fucking lessons, right? Like,
Yeah. Well,
so I
that's
go ahead, go ahead.
Nietzsche talks about the when he describes the overman. It's very much the child who doesn't ask, is this right or wrong? Is this morally good or not? He acts from the core of his being, and he does it in a playful attitude with complete assuredness and self-authority. He's self-driven, self-determined, and he does what he thinks is time to do. Um, and so to me, like that is very much a personal golden age. I do think that we're in something of a Kali Yuga. I think that it's uh it's more it's hard to explain in a really quick thing, but I do think that we've had this degeneration over time. And then there's a rebuilding again that comes later, and we just happen to be in a point right now where it is kind of on a decline, and has been for a few hundred years, give or take a couple thousand. But it's I do think that there's the internal procession of the ages, right? Where it's moving from iron to, being transmuted into gold, and then descending back down to the lowest base lead, and then it transcends into gold again. But I do think that we have that going on in the overworld, right? And like overarching history and in the real world that we live in. But I do believe that the procession of the ages happens internally first and foremost. And I know for me myself, my personal golden ages are those moments where those periods of time where I really am just doing. I'm just being, and there's no put on. There's no uh, attempt to. As you guys might not know this, but I try really hard to come across as smart. I don't know if I'm pulling it off, but I try, and
Nailing it.
that used to be of the utmost importance to me. And when that begins to lose its importance, and when you become really okay with being the fool so that others can enjoy it, or just for the sake of being a fool, because it's fun. Like, even if you're the only one that laughed at your joke. I got this joke that I tell every time I order focaccia bread, right? Every time I order focaccia, I point at it, and I'll say, I'll have the focaccia, please. No one laughs ever. I do every time. Every time I laugh. It's like the most boomer joke, right? And it's just like, one order of focaccia, the feta focaccia, and they're like, feta. Okay, okay. They write it down and leave it. I'm like, nobody gets it. But it's still so funny to me, and that's okay. They think I'm an idiot right now, and rightfully so. But I think this is hilarious. And what's see, I've always been that way in a joking context, but I really wanted everybody to think I'm very clever and spiritual and stuff. And finally, it seems to be a lot easier to get to a point where I'm able to point at the spiritual menu and say like, "Hey, you guys should try some focaccia." It's good stuff.
No, I love that insight because I feel like my whole life, yeah, I had to come to terms with this because I didn't realize how smart that actually was or how intelligent that actually was. And I know this is going to sound like very egotistical, but screw you guys. It's my show. I could do this if I want.
I got a 320 IQ. Come on.
So, I don't even know the IQ numbers, but whatever mine
I
is,
don't have an IQ.
I'm an I, I'm an INTP. All right. So the Myers Briggs. So that's where all the geniuses are. So just trust me. But no,
Okay.
I think what happens is, to people who are a little above average with intelligence is there's a defense mechanism that people have that aren't so smart, and it's to try to convince these people who are smarter that they're not smart. And it's our fault though. It's not like it's the guy's fault who tried to trick me into that. So my whole life I've been trying to prove how smart I was for some reason,
Yeah.
right? And I always want to come across smart and I don't want to look dumb. And then I got to a point where it's like, oh, it doesn't even fucking matter, especially as a comedian. Like one of my, like earlier, Speedy said, she's like, you don't want to be, as the comedian, you don't want to be the smartest person in the room,
Right.
and it's so
Right.
true because people are just going to sense that. And then it might interfere with their comedy because they're going to judge you or whatever. They're like, fuck this guy. He thinks he's so smart or whatever. You're just going to make them feel bad about themselves. And it's the opposite. You want them to laugh and feel good. Right. So, as I've realized this and backed out of that, I think it's just it's made my life a lot easier. I'll just say it that way. But I'm sure it's created better content because I'm not up here trying to prove how smart I am or whatever with all this.
SMRT.
Look at this esoteric knowledge. I have the knowledge.
Right.
I read the books and I know this. And
Good Lord.
yeah,
I almost feel like I've severely hurt some people by dumping some esoteric stuff that they really shouldn't have ever had in their hands. And it was really mean of me to have done. And it's a funny thing now
I
to
forgive
learn,
you. No, I'm just
because like you start realizing that like, dude, telling him that really screwed him up, or her, and it's just like, why did I think that I am somehow the great shepherd, the almighty, who's going to walk up and say the magic words to fix what's off in this person? And what makes me think I could even diagnose what's off in this person? And dude, I have made that mistake so many times that now it seems much more fun to like read these esoteric things for myself. And if things get filtered through, then cool. But like this idea that I had that we're going to fix the world, that's innately Jayish, and I it's not helpful. It's not good. It's not good. And it really is just a means to enslave everyone else to your will, or to almost like an enamoring, right? Like a mesmerizing. And I don't really believe that's anything like earlier. I don't think that's anything past black magic itself. And it's a crazy thing to try to fix a thing that you don't even fully understand. And how often do we do that with each other? Of like, hey, I read this esoteric quote, and it like I understood what it meant, and I am a 18-year-old spiritual kid. I'm capable of drinking this thing and being all right, and going and playing with this gun, and it'll be all right. But maybe that 6-year-old there that you just handed it to wasn't the best choice. You know, there's a lot of that realization for me going on, that And I'm not saying that I've done terrible work in trying to help people. It's just the realization I feel like I'm walking into maybe a state of being an old dude, you know? Like maybe that's what this is. Because when you're young, like, dude, I know you felt the same way when you're like 20 years old, like, dude, we're gonna conquer the world. Like, sign me up. Like you went and joined the Marines, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's same
literally
thing.
with
I sat
Congress.
outside of a Marine recruiter for like I went there like every afternoon and just sat there for a while until the dude came out and started trying to talk me into coming inside. And like I ended up just not, but it was that same thing. I wanted to go fight and conquer the world and be right and represent goodness and all the things that I like. And the realization that the more you put those things on, this I think comes with age, a certain level of like maturity, not in a I am so mature sense, but just a natural maturity of say like a tree, right? It's just going to happen with time. But the more one, I don't know if I'm right on this, the more one seems to mature, the more it becomes like less important to always have this kind of perfection. Let me fix it. Manly P. Hall again, another Hall quote. He says the spiritual mysteries can't be brought down to the level of understanding for the uninitiated. They can't be simplified because to the wise they are already simple. You know. Um, so
Yeah, no, dude, 100%. And any act where you're trying to save the world or save someone else, or it's just you're basically at the end of the day, you're displaying a lack of faith in the way things are, in the
yeah,
plan, in God. It's like you don't trust God. It reminds me of like, as a DJ, if I'm kind of training someone that's new and I go to do something that doesn't seem right, and they'll say to me, "Oh no, I don't. You shouldn't do it that way. What about this?" And I'm like, "Yeah, but I'm doing this in order to do that." And I just look at them like, "What? You think this is my first day?" So it's like I'm like, "I got this, dude. I know what I'm doing." It's kind of the same thing you're saying to God. Oh wait, are you sure, God? Are you sure? And he's like, "Yeah, dude. We've been doing this for like ever. Like, I got this, bro."
yeah, yep, yeah.
It's
It's real
exactly.
easy to confuse yourself as being your dad. Like what do little kids do? Right? Like, oh, I could do this. I've seen my dad do it a million times. It's the same thing. I could shepherd this flock. I've seen my dad do it a million times. No, you can't. No, you can't. That's adorable. You think so? A sheep's going to shepherd the flock.
And
But I don't think that we're all sheep, by the way. But it's a great example. Like, how are you gonna? I don't know. It's like expecting my computer to repair itself. Like that's a cool thought, but not exactly worthwhile.
well, maybe if you scream at it long enough, it will, though. You
You just
never
gotta
know.
kick it a couple times. That's
Smack it right on the side.
yeah, clogged electrons.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that, like a kid watching his dad doing something, because there is something in there that's valuable if you flip it around. Because we could make shows and talk all day about how people should be and what they should do and what's right and how the world's wrong, or we could just get on and have a cool conversation about things we've learned and laugh and have a good time, and then people can watch this and say, "Oh shit, Brandon and Sarkastic Warlock seem like they are having a good time. Maybe they figured out some things. Let me look into what they're looking into." And
And they
because
get
of our
horribly offended for like a year.
and after that year, they'll come back to us after they got kicked off Twitter and
You know
they're
what? I like you.
thrown
You're
out of
all right.
Thanksgiving. And they're like, "Oh, I see it now. Can I come back to Thanksgiving? I promise I won't talk about, I try to think of something funny and
Yep.
unexpected. I promise I won't talk about the Berenstain Bears or whatever." But yeah, no, dude, fucking 100%. It's like just be an example. And I think that's kind of the only thing you can really do if you want to, quote unquote, make the world a better place. Just fix your shit, and then you technically do make it a better place. But one thing oh, what's up, Dissident Jones? What's going on? And Amy Burr, how's it going? Amanda, how you doing? Shout out to the chat there. Awesome. Let me see how many people. We got 12. We only needed 12. Oh, we got it, guys. We're gonna
We
start
did
our
it.
cult
We
now. We
did it.
got 12 people in the chat. We could start our cult. We're letting you know we are both Jesus. That's right. If depends on which one you like, you can worship either of us or both. We're interchangeable.
When we come together, we stick our rings together, and then we become like mega Jesus, and we go battle aliens.
We do. Those aliens will never see it coming.
Oh, can
So
I show you something that I saw coming?
yeah,
Check this
please
out.
do.
This is awesome. This is really cool. Just got this a couple days ago. The thing is I have been having an impossible every one of these stories in the way of the lonely ones, ways of the lonely ones has uh, a really cool print, like a really cool little picture that goes with it, which I haven't been able to find online, and none of the copies that are being sold today have it in very good quality at all. And what I'd like to do is just take a picture of that and just have it as the thumbnail for these things. But
Where can people find this, by the way?
you can find it on my YouTube channel, which is just if you look up Sarkastik Worlock, you'll find it. Uh,
It's spelled funny. There's a link in
spelt funny. Yeah, there's a link in the
the
description, I
description to this.
suppose. But
Go
yeah,
there.
I was able to pick up a copy. Oh geez. Oh geez.
Oh,
Let's see if we could.
Jesus.
How do we turn off that? You guys are all going to see my terrible room for a minute. I had a flood in my basement.
Speaking of terrible, guys, I relaunched the Terrible podcast. You can go to terrible, TAROTBULL.com. It's an audio only podcast. There are some videos from the old ones, but right now we're just doing audio. Check it out. We do it every week. Okay, go ahead. What do you got? Here, hang on. Let me
1934.
pin you. There we go. So now it's just you on the screen.
See that? 1934. I got a 1934 copy of Manly P. Hall's The Way of the Lonely Ones. And let me show you just a couple of these absolutely stunning illustrations here. So this is that first one. I don't know if you remember, but the huntsman and the old man on the mountain
Yep.
stopping them from shooting the deer. There's a few of these that I absolutely love. One of my favorites so far has been The Face of Christ. Do you remember that one? Uh, Man goes looking for a face of Christ, drinks he wants to see Christ, and where have they taken him? He was one of the original followers of Jesus, and where have they taken my Lord? And I would love to I want to see his face again. And so he manages to drink this mystical potion. And through this mystical potion, he begins to see the face of Christ in literally everything, including the grains of sand and the people he walks by, and in all things he sees the face of his beloved. And then he goes on serving everything that he sees the face of Christ in. I absolutely love it. But here's that illustration here. But anyway, some of these are really neat, and I can't wait. I got this book specifically to be able to do that, and super excited about it. I'm gonna cover up
That's
my dirty room.
that's amazing. I'm gonna bring us back to the view too. No, that's great. It's funny. It's gonna kind of segue into what I was gonna ask in next, and we can kind of wrap up on this. Not that we have to go right now or whatever, but we can kind of wind down. And it's basically what are you going to be doing going forward now that you have this amazing perception point of view that you've come at? What's in the future for old Sarkastik Warlock, you think, or what are some ideas that are brewing? We won't hold you to them. Don't worry.
Last year I moved to the woods. So now I'm out in the woods. I got about 100 acres.
And what's your home address again? No, I'm just kidding.
Pretty heavy woods. I wish I had your address. I would have just I'm playing, of course I wouldn't. But one of the things that I realized real quick, and you'll realize this real quick, and this is a very as within, so without, as above, so below thing. Okay, it's a whole lot easier to have a pristine and perfect quarter acre than it is to have a pristine and perfect 100 acres, because you could only do so much with your time. And it's sort of like in this big room here, in this big basement, if I were to try to reach out and touch that wall, that's kind of futile. And if I could stretch myself thin enough to touch that wall, would I have any impact when I did so? And I think one of the important things that we all let me fix you, Brent. Let me fix you all. But I think one of the important things for us to realize is that the more that we um, expand this circle and try to, hold more and more and more and be able to do this kind of great things, um, the more we limit our effect on what is within that circle. And so for me, um, what I'm really doing is I'm narrowing things down. I'd like to start a maybe every other week, maybe once a month podcast with a friend of mine. Um, very like easy going, not like we'd like to talk about esoteric things and all that kind of stuff, but not like let's go change the world, keep it more on a light, upbeat note and just fun. And then there's like, man, I got so much tractor work. It's crazy. I got so much to do here all the time that every day that I every day that I push myself to get stuff done, I go to bed at night feeling like I conquered the world. It's I it feels like there's so much of real value in just like working on my own property. And I know that that sounds,
Sounds amazing. Are you kidding me?
but I love it. I love it. I'm going to be doing a lot with my tractor and my weed whacker. And then uh we're just over halfway through with the Manly P. Hall book.
I'm gonna put it
Um
back on you, and I'm also gonna. You're not gonna see me for a minute because I'm gonna adjust my light, but I can hear you. Keep talking.
yeah, we're about halfway through the Manly P. Hall book, and then I'll finish that up. And then I'd like to start on another one. Um, Something pretty interesting, fun, like more of these. I really like the idea of these short stories. There's a couple audiobooks that don't have audiobooks that I would like to make. There's one book I just recently came across called Mister, and it doesn't have an audiobook, and it's like a total cult classic, real hard to find book. And what I'd like to do with that is like make a dramatized version of it because I use AI voice models and all this stuff. And at this point, I've got a pretty wide stable, a pretty full stable of different voices that I could use. So I'd like to assign each character, like make these audiobooks and have each character have its own voice and the narrator have its own voice and really try my hand at just fun stuff like that. And of course, there's like absolutely no money in it at all, but it's just fun. It's just a fun thing to do. So I like to do that. Um,
I love that idea.
yeah, I usually do a lot of or a bit more writing in winter time than spring and summer, and here it comes. So we'll see. We'll see what comes. But I'll tell you what's not coming. A giant forceful push from myself on myself to do something. Do you know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
like I'm the only one that pushes me to do something. And I push me harder than anyone else would if they tried. And yeah, and I think that's a very silly thing I've done for a long time, and I've forced myself into positions that weren't really of any benefit to me. And you know, just it's always funny when you find out that you were clout chasing, like a bit after you were done clout chasing. You're like, holy shit, I was clout chasing. Dear Lord, what have I done? And for no real purpose. There just no real purpose behind it. And so now I'm really excited to do whatever the hell I want. And that's really cool, I think.
Well, you could chase my clout anytime you want,
You
sarcastic.
got good clout, man. Let me tell you, you got some nice clout there.
Yeah, the thing is it's not it's not as influential as some people on the internet, but the clout that I do have, you're right, it's like good quality clout.
Yeah. Yeah, you've got sometimes you bring up like posted a Rodney Norman video a few months back and you're like, I know that guy. Yeah, he's really cool. And I'm like, wow, man, that's awesome. But yeah, you know a lot of really interesting people, you know?
Yeah, that's one of the things I've been blessed with my life. I used to do just open mic comedy with Rodney Norman,
That's so cool.
He's just like he wasn't one of the other guys, but I mean, of course, he was one of the most hilarious comedians. And I always would love when he would come to an open mic or when I was on a show with him because I know he knew he was going to make me laugh. But yeah, it's kind of funny how that it's like I'm almost famous. It's like one of those things, like soon to be relatively famous. That's
Yeah,
me.
yeah.
I actually have a funny story about that, and I'm just going to keep putting it out there. Maybe the more I talk about it, I could turn it into a bit. But I got to hang out with Tommy Lee from Motley Crue. It's a little rock group. I don't know if you ever heard of them. They were called Motley Crue, and their drummer, his name was Tommy Lee. You might have heard of him.
They did that Highway to Hell song, right?
Welcome to the Jungle, wasn't that him?
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Um,
Wore that top hat, right?
yeah, yeah. Kickstart my heart, everybody. Trust me,
Yeah.
I know Motley Crue. I had that CD. But anyway, so because I was a DJ at this club and I was also working there during the week doing like their promotions. They're like, hey, we're gonna have Tommy Lee come here with another DJ, and they put on this show similar to what Travis Barker was doing with DJ AM, where like Travis Barker from Blink 182, he's the drummer. He would go with the DJ and play the drums. Well, Tommy Lee did that, but he had like drum machines and all this different stuff. So we booked him at our club, and I got to pick him up from the airport and drive him around. And there was like a spat involved with the owner of the club there I was working because the guy, one of the owners, he was, that thing we're not supposed to talk about on YouTube. He was one of them, and
Oh,
he's like I love the guy, but he definitely didn't do anything to help the stereotype. You know what I mean? Like,
it
anyway, so
happens.
he was just being awful, but so I got to hang out with Tommy Lee, and there was this suggestion because the DJ he was with, DJ Arrow, was like, my friend is DJing at this club in New York City, and I'm only like we're an hour drive to New York. So he's like, oh, maybe after the clubs, because here in Connecticut they close at 2. It's like, maybe we'll go down there after. And I'm like, fucking sweet. I get to hang out and party with Tommy Lee. I mean, this
That's
is
awesome. That's
crazy,
legendary, man.
right? And this is 2010, Brandon. So it's a lot different. I mean, I still listen. I'd still go hang out with anybody right now just to fucking be there, right?
Yeah.
See what happens. But I happened to be hanging out with Tommy Lee at a time when he was clean and sober.
Oh,
So they
what a
were talking about,
disappointment.
and that's where the funny, like the irony is. And so we just went to Wendy's, 24-hour Wendy's, and then they were tired. So I just brought him back to the hotel. But it's like, I get this chance to hang out with Tommy Lee and drive him to a club where there only would have been like 4 or 5 of us. And, I picked the time in his life where he's clean and sober and just like chilled out. So
That's kind of cool because I'm not like disrespecting Tommy Lee, but I didn't know he had a time where he was clean and sober. So you having that experience is kind of like everyone knows about the crazy Tommy Lee, but not this one. You got to see a side that doesn't ever get talked about.
yeah, yeah. And again, it's not like I'm mad, or even at the time I was like, wow, this is cool. I get to hang out with him when he's sober, and it wasn't until later where I thought about that and the irony involved in it.
Yeah.
But you're right. Nobody knows Tommy Lee as a clean and sober person. And I don't know if he still is or how long that struggle lasted, but I think it was at least 8 months or a year at the time when I hung out with him. So he was
Nice.
deep into this. But yeah, you just never know where life's going to take you. But I know there's some comedy there. There's some kind of story that I can tell and turn it into stuff where I can make people laugh on stage. But I
Just
don't
the
know.
idea of sober Tommy Lee is like it's good. That's a good
Yeah, because
start.
like if Tommy Lee was sober his whole life wouldn't have happened. Like it only happened because he was partying,
Well,
like
that oh my God, what if you took little snippets of some songs and rewrote it as though it's sober from the very beginning?
start my heart, like he's got
Right.
to drink a bunch of espressos to kickstart his heart, maybe, and smoke
Hmm.
a cigarette. Yeah. Hmm. Well,
Anyway.
fire for fodder. But I'm excited though to hear about where you are, because ever since we became friends on the internet, sometime in, was it like late 2020 or early 2021, somewhere in that era?
I was raging.
Yeah, you were raging, but there was always something about you that I really liked. And, my Sharon and I share a really cool relationship. She's kind of like the sister that I never had. And we were able to talk about all these different ideas.
That's
And there
awesome.
were times when she would be like, "Oh, what do you think?" Like when we'd be interacting, and she'd be like, and I'm like, "Listen, dude, like I just like the dude. Like, people are gonna get to where they have to go. And who would it be for me?" And again, it's not like I fucking know more than you or I'm like better than you or whatever, but like who would it be for me to try to tell you what to do with something? You know what I'm saying? Because even since then, I figured out shit that I was doing that was retarded. You know what I'm
I think
saying?
it's perfectly fair to quantify at least aspects of somebody based on how constantly pissed off they are.
Yeah,
I think
there's
that's reasonable.
you're always so funny though. I think that's what it is. I think because my friend Pat Oates, I said this about him recently too, where like he still thinks we probably went to the moon and all this stuff. I mean, hey, maybe we did, but I'm still able to be friends with him because he's funny and we have a good time. And we talk about this in the Oversharing show where we prioritize the qualities in people that we like. Is he a good dude?
Yeah,
Is he gonna
yeah,
fuck you over? Can you depend on him? Is he funny? Is he good to be with? Then who cares if he thinks that Lee Harvey Oswald shot JFK. I'm trying to think of really lame ones here, right? Like,
yeah,
for who really thinks, who cares? Like, we're just gonna have a good time. Like, there was that one comedian that we all know who is Owen Benjamin, right? And he used to talk about '90s friends. Like, can't we just be '90s friends? And I wish that he could live a little more by that too. If I had a message
yeah.
from him, it's like, come on, Owen, let's be '90s friends,
Let's
all
just
of
be
us.
nice.
But
Yeah,
that's it's such a great concept, and I'm glad that I'm glad that we became friends because I really do think you're funny and we got to meet in real
me
person.
too. I'm glad too, man.
Hopefully, I keep saying this, but hopefully soon we'll get to meet in real person again and hang out.
I need to
And
meet your lady.
yeah, 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 you're gonna love her. She's
Sure.
very I love her. She's amazing and she's an introvert like me. So,
It's awesome.
yeah, it's great. But I
You guys
have
could like sit in silence together.
we could just I'm a very extroverted introvert though, as you guys can all tell by the show.
Same
And so
here. Nope, nobody
yeah,
knows this,
exactly.
but I've been preaching since I was 12, and I damn near shit my pants every time I have to have a mic at all. And I really hate being in the spotlight as much as I throw myself headfirst into it. It's a funny thing.
Well, the funny thing about me, that's what people say. Like, are you an introvert? You're up on stage and all this stuff. They're like, don't you get nervous? And I overcame that, but it's kind of like in a really selfish, egotistical way because I'm like, fuck all these people. Like when I was at the open mic, I hadn't been on stage in easily 2 years. And before that,
Yeah,
it was even longer, except for like when I do my DJ thing right at weddings. But I wasn't nervous at all. The only nerves I had were I was worried that I was gonna forget what I had to say or fuck something up, right? But as far as being in front of people, like I just didn't give a shit. And it really is because, these people, that's where you can kind of use that NPC thing to your advantage, right? You can
yeah,
take that look at people if you want, but it's like we're all just people. So why am I going to get nervous getting up in front of them? Like they're probably
yeah,
a lot of them that, especially the ones who aren't comedians, are looking at me. I'm already a hero to them because I'm up there doing it. You know what I'm saying? Like
yeah.
they're just like, holy shit. So that's kind of how I overcome it. And then but yeah, no, I think it would be a great hang. So let's see how the cards play out if you will.
Maybe we could vape a little cocaine.
We should totally vape some. I can't wait. That was the best inside joke ever. I'm not even going to explain it. I'm just going to make people wonder,
Just,
like,
just leave it on the table, you know?
vaping
Like
cocaine? What? Like,
we
I
could
don't
vape
even,
cocaine.
like, I thought you said on another podcast, Brandon, that you never even did cocaine in your whole life, which is true, but I will vape cocaine.
I've never actually tried cocaine, but I have tried every cocaine joke I can come up with.
There you go. See, that's why you should look for some local open mics in the woods where you live and,
Yep,
go up there with a few. I
good
was
old boys.
I guess we can end this. I tell you the story about how I my story about cocaine? Did I ever tell you? This is probably something I should work into a bit too. I have it. I should write it down again because I probably didn't. and I'm glad we had this conversation because it reminded me. But when I was in the car business, one time I was working with this guy who was, of course, fucking Colombian, right? It's like you gotta. He's
Yep.
Colombian, and for whatever reason, I think he was trying to impress me or whatever, and he was like, "Hey, come here," and he took me into the back into his
I
car.
knew it. The Colombian's gonna kidnap you. Just
He
just to be
fucking
funny. It's so funny.
no, it's even more stereotypical. He's like, we get in his car and he's like, it smells like paint in here, right? And I'm like, yeah, it does, like house paint. And he goes, yeah, that's what it smells like when you have a bunch of cocaine. And he reached behind him and he grabbed a bag and he had a kilo of cocaine.
Whoa.
And I don't think he was exactly involved in all this stuff. Something with his cousin. I don't know, YouTube, whatever. This is comedy. But he was just like, yeah, man. He's like, look, and it's summertime. The windows were down. I'm like, dude, what the fuck are you doing to me? Like, there's no way if a cop comes up right now that he's ever gonna believe that you were just trying to impress me with your cocaine. I'm going to jail. There's no way we're
Right.
both not going to jail. Like, even though I'm the white guy here, it doesn't fucking matter. Trust me. So it was fucking hilarious, dude. And he's like, you know anybody? I'm like, dude, no, I don't fucking know anybody that would even touch this. So again, another funny, hilarious story uh of things that
It's
have happened
awesome.
in my life. The guy was just trying to impress me with all this cocaine that he had. Yeah, it was pretty
Were
fucking.
you impressed?
I was super impressed, but I was also like, dude, what the fuck? Like, I think I had the reaction that he was not expecting at all. Like, either he was expecting awe or maybe like, hey, give me some of that, or give me. I was just like,
Yeah.
what the fuck are you doing?
Whoa.
Like, what
Yeah.
if a cop's driving by a canine? Like, because we were on the main drag, we're selling cars. We were in the back, but still, I'm sure a kilo of cocaine probably, in the summer, a dog could probably smell it from like a mile away. I would imagine like a drug dog probably going fucking crazy.
All
Like,
those coked up dogs. Like, where's the coke?
give me that cocaine,
They're
me.
just jonesing. That's the real trick to get the dogs to find the cocaine is you got to get them addicted. And then you ask them where they've been buying it. Give me your connection, dog. That's drug dogs are weird. They're
Drug dogs are weird. Uh,
quickest to rat.
yeah, it's like you got to get him addicted. So he like gets rid of his whole dog family, like he just fucks over his dog children and he's like,
Starts
oh,
stealing doggy treats and selling them.
and then you got him. Then he's a good drug dog.
Would it would it would it be inappropriate to say he's like, passing out dog J's for little bumps?
Oh man. It's like,
That's terrible.
Fido, why is your pinky nail growing so long? Fido, what's wrong? We have to have a talk here. Skip or whatever. Well, let's see. Thank you guys. Oh, Carrie, what's going on? I didn't say hi to Carrie. What's up, Amy? Thank you for joining us. Any other new names that I see in the chat? Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. We're going to be live tomorrow for the Oversharon show at 2:33 p.m. Continuing our series with the Tao Te Ching, where we break down verses of the Tao, and we have 4 different versions of each verse, and one of them is
Wow.
by Aleister Crowley.
He
And
did a I
yeah,
didn't know he did that.
yeah, sometime in the 20s, but it didn't get released until like 1976, which was the year I was
Wow.
born. So let me tell you something. There's some synchronicities in there. Another synchronicity is we just randomly grabbed 4 versions. One that I liked, I used to listen to on YouTube all the time. And then Sharon found a few, and we put them all together, and we realized that each of them kind of represents one of the 4 elements in its own
Wow.
way. There's like a waterish version. Of course, Aleister Crowley is the fire version. It's so esoteric and it reads more like the King James Bible kind of sometimes. Or you know what I mean, and that's in that
Yeah,
way of speaking. Yeah. So check that out, everybody. We're gonna be on
that
verses
sounds awesome.
19 and 20 tomorrow. Yeah, it's been really fun. It's funny because those episodes have like the lowest views out of all our episodes, but they're my favorite to do. And I just love doing it. And the other good thing is, if we don't have a guest or if we don't have another topic, we always have content to go talk about. Like we just continue this and then we'll do a guest or some guests or something comes up we want to talk about. But if nothing, we're just like, all right, we're talking about the Dow. So it's really streamlined
That's
our
so cool.
show in a way where we can kind of concentrate more on this. And I've always wanted to cover the Dow, and after that, maybe we'll cover the Havamal or the Bhagavad Gita or, who
That'd
knows?
be awesome. Yeah, that's super cool, man. That's exciting.
Thank you. Yeah. and it's been exciting having you on the show. Every time you come on, I get so excited because I know I don't even like earlier. Elizabeth's like, "What are you guys going to talk about?" I'm like, "I don't know, fucking. Well, we're going to talk about something." She's like, "I love how you could just get on a show and talk." I'm like, "Yeah." Especially when well, that's what I said. I go with certain guests, it doesn't even matter. Sometimes I'll get like a couple questions or like a guideline, but with Sarkastik, we could just hang out and talk all day. You know what I mean? So it's like,
Man, it's a real honor and a great pleasure. And thank you very, very much. And you're always a blast to hang out with.
thank you. I appreciate it. You're definitely my first cult member already. You're gonna be like the
Yes.
deacon,
Yeah.
the true believer.
I'll be
Well,
the one handing out castrations.
yes, you will be. That's what that knife was that I sent you. It was all about. That's why it was
Yep.
yeah, blessed by Satan himself. Love you both. Thank you, Speedy. We love you too.
Aw.
You are amazing. Nicholas Burnett, thank you for coming to hang out here. Thank you all in the chat. I'm always so blown away when people come and hang out and just
Yeah,
jive and groove. So, well, thanks again, Sarcastic. And
absolutely. Thank you.
is there anything else you want to shout out? You know, you got a Substack, right?
Yeah, I got a Substack and now I have a YouTube channel that has a little bit of content on it and it'll be growing and I hope to have I'd like to have something out every 4 days, but some of these like man, it's sometimes I'll spend 20 minutes trying to get my voice model to say a single word correctly. And it just won't. And so I have to like spell it 8 different ways to try to trick the AI into saying what I want. Uh, but yeah, so sometimes it takes longer than others, but I hope to have at least one thing out a week and check out my Substack. Whatever I write will be up on there. Supposing I write.
How do people
It
get there?
that should be it's Substack slash Sarkastic Warlock. I think I'm so bad at this.
Ouch.
Honestly, my wife Speedy is she's the greatest MC I've ever had, and she pimps me more than I even know. I don't even know my website. It's really funny, and
Good.
yeah, but she pushes me out by everybody. So she's my handler, we call her.
Oh, good. Shout out to Speedy then. Amazing. Keep handling them well. All right, I'm gonna stop before I say something that's just inappropriate. But yeah. Oh, look,
Thank
she
you,
put the
Speedy.
link. There we go. The link is here. I'll pin it right now. So if you guys want to click on this link, feel free. And you guys can find me at morelawsmoreproblems.com. Go there. Everything's there. My blog. You can find my book. You can get the Oprah Sharon show, the Terrible podcast, all that stuff. And yeah, until next time, party on, everybody, right?
On.
That's the way. Party on, Wayne. Party on, Garth. See you guys later.
Bye.
All right, we're done.